you definitely will have to, seek the support of other ministers in many other respects. For instance, transport. Because the president even did mention it yesterday that it is cheaper, almost cheaper for the trade in Lagos to send things to Europe than for someone to bring their goods from the north to the south. How are you hoping? Because it would seem that that singular factor could be affecting the prices of food, because in spite of all of these interventions, it doesn't seem like the price of food is going down.
Well, there are many things that affect the price of food. Let me take the infrastructure, and on that point. The president is absolutely right. I mean, here as a government, this administration got the rails working. When I was a kid, growing up in Ibadan, I used to go to the Nigerian Railway Corporation, and you saw all the rails that were moving products. And the rails are back, running back. And more is going to actually happen as we move from narrow gauge to standard gauge. And so you can have speedier trains that can move commodity. Agricultural commodities are bulk produce. And so the lowest cost of moving them is actually by rail, not by trucks. So as we fix that, I think you will see the price of commodities come down. Second is roads. What the Minister of Transport is doing is quite impressive. We're fixing a lot of roads all across the country, and that will drive down the transaction costs that buyers have in sourcing produce and moving produce. Moving fertilizers, for example. Notori, big supplier, or TAC, these are big suppliers. When they move bulk produce like that, if you've got the rails working, it's much easier for them to get it in. India, for example, was able to drive down the cost of inputs because they use a lot of rail. So that's important, but not just that. Aviation, for example. We're doing this fresh produce program to export fresh produce to Europe and other parts of the world. If you do not have an efficient aviation industry, your cost competitiveness gets affected. But even look at other infrastructure that people don't even remember, ICT infrastructure. What my colleague minister is doing there is quite impressive. And we are working together now to actually scale up the electronic wallet system to many more millions of farmers. Right. Irrigation, for example, is another one. So we're working all across government together. The president made a point yesterday, which was fundamental. Say, look, agriculture is the fulcrum in which we are actually driving the economy and to which all other things connect for us to unlock the power of the sector. That is how
we're running out of time, but we have to see how
I think Agric accounts for 70% of all the jobs, so we better give us more time.
No, we understand. And of course, you have to have something in your stomach for you to actually reason right straight.
I'm fine. Cassava bread is firing us out.
Well, Bakar Alainka really wants you to tell him something that you have for them, livestock farmers, because according to him, it seems that your ministry is only interested in crop producers.
No, that's not correct. But let me say that, crop production accounts for 85% of all agricultural. Livestock is just about maybe 10% of it. That said, what are the things that we are doing for livestock farmers? When we talk about the growth enhancement scheme and the electronic wallet system to give inputs to farmers, yes, we were focusing on crops. But this year, we started focusing as well on livestock farmers, as well as those that are the fishermen or fisher folks. In the area of livestock, we've taken the issue of access, for example, to artificial insemination. We're working on that. We're working on improving our pastures to make sure that you can have very good feeding materials for the animals. We are working, yesterday you had Alhaji Tafida, which is, as a country, we move animals. We don't move beef, and we don't have a good value chain for beef, so you go to the markets, you're fighting between beef and flies and so on, just because there is no cold chain system, a very well-regulated system. We started dealing with that. And, Alhaji Tafida's halal certified beef plant is going to be one of the largest, it's actually the largest that we have in the country, so that we can have a system where we can supply beef through a cold chain system that is hygienic, and we can trace our animals. Poultry is one, but I'm concerned that, our markets are getting pounded by imported frozen chicken, which is not good for us. And we're doing quite a lot for fish today. We're giving access to farmers for fishing nets, fish feed, fingerlings, and supporting that. So it's a comprehensive
There are questions about that too, but since you mentioned it, no problems. What about agricultural hub? Sam says you mentioned it about a year ago. How far has it gone?
Oh yeah, it's going very well. Actually, what Sam is talking about is what we call staple crop processing zones. if you look at, for example, let's just take a practical one. Take the case of tomato, for example. If you're in the Cadaver Valley, you're producing a lot of tomato. 45% of it actually rots away because there isn't anybody that can actually quickly buy it from you and process it. And so we've identified that area as what we call a staple crop processing zone. So that staple crop processing zone is like what you would call your export processing zone, except that this time you're doing it internally to process and get food manufacturers to that zone. So that's going along well. Dangote is putting $6 million to put up a plant there that will actually process all those tomatoes back into paste. Go to Agbadu and in Kogi State is actually a staple crop processing zone for cassava, and that's going on well. So this is being done for us by UNIDO. The master plan for that, all these staple crop processing zones will be completed by exactly September 14. So we're well on track for doing them. They will reduce the cost of business. They will create jobs in rural areas, and they will also help the food manufacturers to be close to where the feedstock is. Because you can't be hauling feedstock to Lagos. You've got to be where it is, and that's what we're doing.
All right, Dr. Akim Adesina, Minister of Agriculture, thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.